Hello and welcome back to Rolly's Wheels. We're now in 2022. This is going to be the first review in 2022. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the viewers and all those people who've kindly subscribed in 2021 and the year before for help supporting us. So today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be having a bit of a review of the Lexus GS450h, and this is the car that we're going to be doing a brief review on today. It's a beautiful graphite black. It's got a metallic. You can't necessarily see the metallic probably on camera at the moment, but when the sun shines on it, it actually brings up beautiful different colors of particles in the paint. It's built up with several layers, but that's quite special, so it's not just a normal black. The car has a 3.5 litre V6 and it's coupled to electric motors. And electric motors are stored at the back. We've got the batteries stored just behind the rear seats. The combination of the electric motors with the 3.5 V6 is a good form of helping economy, so that your fuel emissions are reduced and the performance is enhanced, so you get the best of both worlds. You could say that this is, well, it actually is the more sporty version of its line, and you can see by looking at the telltale sign is looking at the grille. It's got this honeycombed pattern grille. Now Lexus brought this model out, I think it was late 2016, early 17. It's the facelift version. Previous to this, the grille formation was different because you didn't have this beautiful sort of zigzag deep grille on the earlier one. It was split off with a separate bumper strip across. It wasn't so imposing. But looking at the car from the front, Lexus have thought about this quite a lot. It's really beautiful when you look at it from whatever angle, but it's very imposing from the front. And because you've got this nice Lexus badge, you've got the L, it's actually replicated, if you look carefully, into the way this is formed. They've got the L's here, they've got the sort of shape of the L's again, and it's mirrored this way around. Not only that, they've thought about the headlamps. Previous model, they weren't as beautiful looking as this. They've gone into 3 separate headlamp units on each side, and they've actually formed again the L shape. If you take a closer look at this on the front for these driving lights, they actually are illuminated when you're driving along, which I think is a beautiful feature. So you can see, and please forgive what appears to be flashing lights on this particular film. It happens just because of the frequency of the film reel, but the delicacy of the lights, you can see how it's illuminated very nicely on the corners of each of those 3 light sectors, and this L-shaped driving light as well. But interestingly enough, those lights normally come on when you're driving, when you put it into gear. So coming round onto this side of the car, you can see the nice lines. They've designed this very nicely. It's not a massive car, it's probably in your 5 Series BMW sector, but Lexus have put that very beautiful front on it, and the curving back. They've introduced the chrome around the windows, which I think is a nice delicate touch. It's an executive touch. Interesting enough, also a point, you can actually open and unlock the doors even by touching the back doors. So most cars only have them activated on the front, but you can actually unlock the car doors by touching the rear doors as well if you have the key on your person. So coming round to the rear of the car, there are small features that they've designed. If you look at the rear lights, they've got these little webs which are to help with obviously the flow of air around the back of the vehicle. You can just about see these built into the rear lamps. And when you look at the back, you can see again how they've designed the L shape in these lights again. So it reminds you, it's a Lexus. The GS450 comes with 19-inch alloys, and taking a look at the 19-inch alloys closely, you can see there's a beautiful polished alloy on the front, but you've got an anodized grey pattern on the inside. I think those wheels look really, really nice. The tyres are wider on the back than they are on the front. Obviously your grip being rear wheel drive is on the rear, so you require wider wheels to be able to cope for that. I do like this chrome hybrid badge. Just reminds people that this is a hybrid, and it's delicate. It's not written all over the car, it's just a delicate feature which is really nice. And this is the F Sport model, and they've nicely just put the F Sport badge on the wing on this side, and I think in America they've even put an F Sport badge on the boot at the back. The wing mirrors are automatically folding when you lock the car. They're heated and dimmable as you'd expect, so if you've got anybody with bright lights behind you, headlamp beam, it would automatically reduce the reflection back into your face. A very delicate roof aerial. Most cars have something similar. I know the BMWs do too, and Jaguars do. Very nicely done. This model's obviously got the sunroof, and coming around the back of the car, you've got a delicate boot spoiler. It's not overdone, it's just a nice trim which finishes the rear end of the car. Looking at the back again, if you look, you don't see any exhaust pipes sticking out of the back. The hybrid version has exhaust just hidden underneath. We've got down pipes, so they're hidden by this section here. You probably would with the other, I think that's the 300, you've actually got the exhaust pipes which are seen. But again, you've got a chrome strip across the back which finishes it off very nicely. And all in all, looking at the car, it's a really nice sized vehicle. I'm going to open the boot up very shortly now. In fact, I can have a little look at it now, see if we can get into it. To open the boot release button is offset just to this side. You can see the size of the boot. It's quite a good, decent sized boot. The batteries, as I mentioned before, are stored at the back over there, so without those batteries in there in a version, it would probably be a little bit bigger. But I mean, that doesn't hamper the space. You've got adequate space if you want to be able to travel abroad with a vehicle or do a tour of Britain. It's more than adequate. It's really good. What I also mention is with a car, when you're shutting or closing the boot, you just need to sort of click it, and it has a soft close mechanism to close the boot, so you don't have to slam it. Those bits I really like, because it just shows that there's detail to the vehicle. It's professional, it's a luxurious vehicle. You don't have to slam doors, you don't have to slam boots. It's really nice. So let's take a little look at the ergonomics and all little gizmos that this very nice Lexus has got. Swinging round, let's just start with the steering wheel area. This is the typical Lexus design. You've got that nice Lexus badge right in the center of the steering wheel, and you've got all your buttons laid out on either side for ease of operating the infotainment system and your cruise control system as well. You've got the paddles behind the steering wheel, your increase or your plus and your minus, which is a nice touch. They're an aluminium colour. I noticed some previous models had them in black, but this accentuates the aluminium around the middle of the steering wheel, which is really nice. And you've got the F Sport badge at the bottom of the steering wheel, which is a nice little touch as well. Just reminds you that you're driving the F Sport version. The steering wheel itself, the size of it is a nice sporty size, and a very nice steering wheel to hold as well, whether you're holding it at this particular position or whether you want to swing your hands down to below that for relaxed cruising drive. The operation of the stalks as well are very easy to use. The wipers, you can see you can adjust the speed of the wipers. They're automatic wipers on this windscreen, as you'd expect. You can override them as well. And on this particular side, operating your headlamps on that particular stalk too. It's got automatic headlights as well, so the lights come on. This vehicle with those new headlamps are able to dip automatically, and it's quite a nice thing to see as you're driving along. If it's a dual carriageway or a motorway and nobody's coming along and it flips onto full beam, but the car suddenly comes towards you, you can actually see that zone where that car is blacked out, so it doesn't actually get dazzled by your headlights. Moving across now to the center console area, this is very nicely laid out. You've got nicely stitched leather on the sides here. It's a nice soft touch too. Also, this area here it operates the infotainment system, and it works a little bit like your mouse on your computer, if you like. It's got a nice rest pad for your hand to sit on there, so you can operate the navigating button or mouse, whatever you like to call that. And the buttons on here obviously are easy to touch for your hands to sort of slide over. Return button, going to the menu for the infotainment system, and your map for your navigation system. On the side you can see these long strip buttons, which are also aluminium. They are the enter buttons, if you like, so it's a bit like tapping your space bars and enter, or your enter button, so you can either use one or the other on either side depending on how you wish to do so. You can see the gear changer. It's not at all looking stick. It's a nice short sporty version, and going through the gate is quite positive as well. It's not fudgy, it's a nice positive selection. And then you've got here some more sections of buttons. You've got the nice button which you can use to select your sport and sport plus mode. You can rotate that across to change the mode from economy mode to normal driving mode to sport. So that's just literally rotating and then placing it into those settings. Looking further down here, you've got a snow button as well, so it will help prevent the rear wheels when driving from slipping and sliding. So it actually would make sure that in most cars they would probably put you in a second gear or third gear as a takeoff instead of first, which would cause you to slip or slide. And moving across to the other part of the dashboard here, I really like this area here because you've got an analog clock. Load of digital gizmos, but to center on an analog clock I think is a very nice touch. Your typical vents, which are surrounded by the aluminium frame, aluminium again around these buttons for the CD player and infotainment system as well. You can operate from here. You can see you've got dual zone climate control systems, which is a very comfortable thing to use. You've got heated seats buttons down here, and one feature which I really like the sound of and works really well, I understand, is the automatic version. So if you've got on auto, you press auto on the heated seats, depending on the setting of the control in the car. So if the weather's really cold outside and you lower or the temperature's low and you increase the temperature in the car, your heated seat will increase in temperature as well. In the summertime, when you want to lower the temperature in the car, it will automatically switch over and will cool your seats. So it's thinking about it for you. You don't have to bother about that. So automatic mode is a really good practical gizmo, which I think works really well. Moving over here, you've got your heated front screen. All the operation buttons here are somewhat mirrored on the LCD or the infotainment system screen above, which is nicely sunk into the dash here, fitting just below a lovely nice stitched leather top. This is leather, no plastic imitation. That feels lovely and soft, and it's a nice feature to have it stitched all the way around this binnacle as well. So moving into the infotainment system, it's operated, as I mentioned here, by this mouse. And if you look onto the infotainment system, you can move across. We've got the sat nav on this particular section on the left hand side of the screen. It's a split screen, or you can have the sat nav to fill the screen, I understand too. But it's quite useful to, whilst you're being navigated, you can actually go into other features as well, such as here at the moment we've got the average miles per gallon feature, and the elapsed time and the cruise range and so on, which is very useful. I'm just going to move back out of this. So you've got various features, and you can record what you've actually achieved on particular days and so on, I understand, and it's quite good. Consumption average and so on. Now this is very interesting. I was talking before about the payback from the engine whilst it's running to the batteries, and as you're running along you can actually see, you'll probably see an arrow moving from the engine back down to the battery when you're decelerating, and when the battery's using or pumping into the motors in the back wheels, you'll actually see an arrow going across to the rear wheels to feed. Sometimes you actually see them both charging at the same time, but it's a nice configuration. It's nice to see what's actually happening underneath your seat. Let's go back into that one. So we're now going to go into other modes if we can. That actually is a replication of here on a closer distance. You can zoom in using this this mouse. This mouse, I'm feeling this is very good. There are various settings for the speed of this operation of this mouse button. You can actually speed it up or you can slow it right down, and I know that the owner of the vehicle has adjusted this to slow it down, which makes it a bit more easy to use. So you can actually, if I go into here, you can actually, if I just get used to this, you can actually move out or in or show places of interest. It's very, very detailed, and you just have a little play around with this to be able to get used to the system. So moving across here, you can look at your music system, your radios. You can choose what channel you want. You can store all your phone numbers on this system, and you can watch, actually, as I mentioned before, when the engine is turned on. We're on battery mode at the moment, just stationary, but when the engine comes on, hopefully we're going to see that little red arrow when the engine ticks over. We'll do that again in a minute. So you can clearly see that the engine is now charging back to the battery packs in the car, and as you're driving along and you want to open this up, you can actually see the performance, as I mentioned before, which one is paying back to which one. So it's very, very nice to see. So moving ahead, if we go into the setting of the temperature, this is great because you can see how the screen replicates what you have on the dashboard below here, your temperatures. So if you really prefer to do it without lifting your hand further to go to those buttons, you can do it on the screen. So as I said before, just look at the size of that screen for the sat nav. It's a really clear screen to be able to work off, and when you're driving, your eyes are supposed to be ahead of you. It's literally a little glance to see a very large screen to see where you're going. So all in all, the vehicle is a very well put together machine. I think anybody buying one of these would be incredibly happy with it. It's a car that drives well, it's quiet. It's a performing car from the point of view that it's an executive performing car. It's in the league and better than those diesel versions of the BMW and Mercedes. So if you want something different from a Mercedes or BMW, you want to be set apart, you want an executive car with some style and something that you're proud to be the owner of, I'd highly recommend you buy one of these. So sitting in the car, driving along at a steady 30, it feels very quiet, very smooth. You're sitting in a seat that cradles you. As soon as you start the vehicle up, you can feel that the side of the seat corsets your body. It actually sort of comes together and sort of grabs you, if you like, not too much, but just nicely. So being nice and quiet, you can typically understand the combination between the V6 engine coupled with the electric motors. If you're just tootling along and you're traveling at a very, very slow speed, the electric motors obviously will be taking over. Put your foot down and that V6 3.5 litre will then kick in and take over, which is quite nice, and it's there to be exploited. So traveling along a country main road where you've got undulations and slow curves, some dips in the road, the car holds itself nicely. Although I'm only traveling about 40 miles an hour, it's still very smooth. There's some ridges in the road. You don't hear any noises. It's quiet, very, very smooth and relaxing drive. We'll be taking it onto a section of dual carriageway after and be able to explain the feel of it when you're traveling at a greater speed. But for now, looking around, looking out of the window, the vision is excellent. The steering feels very precise, with hardly much movement to be able to steer the car. You don't feel any vibrations or anything coming up through the steering. It just feels nice, and as it should be, like a top executive saloon. As I mentioned before, you don't get any road noise, and the car, when you're actually sitting in it and you're looking around, the ergonomics of the dashboard is a very pleasant thing to look over. And of course, you've got the infotainment system, which gives you plenty of information on a very wide screen. It's full of gizmos, and when you get one of these, there's a lot for you to learn and play with, which is very nice. A lot of them are very good safety features, and this vehicle has radar system for cruise control, and it'll actually hook on to a vehicle in front, so if the vehicle in front brakes, then this vehicle will brake accordingly, keeping you in a safe distance. You can adjust the distance between the car in front of you and yourself. There are various modes as well. It's able to pick up road signs, 30-40 mile an hour road signs, and you can have it adjusted so that you can maintain those speeds and stay within, obviously, the law and those speed limits. They are all good safety factors. It's got also some sport features which are very nice to use when you're on the open road and you want to travel a bit quicker. And of course, this is the hybrid model, so it's more efficient and quite quiet. So we're on a stretch of dual carriageway now, and we'll just take it up to 70 miles an hour, which we're now just at 70. And again, it's very quiet, holds the road really well. It's a really good cruiser for obviously cruising across the continent. It would be very relaxing, and I think that you certainly wouldn't feel any of the miles. Not certainly wouldn't, and no, you wouldn't. And the steering, as I mentioned before, it's precise, very accurate, and no road noise. So it is a very comfortable car, and I'm quite surprised actually that this model in the UK wasn't a lot more popular than it is in the States. But I would give it full marks, and it's a car that I would certainly look at to buy. So let's take a little look inside the engine compartment. It's a nicely compact built-in unit. I mean, a V6 engine sat in this car. It's very nice, easy to keep clean, and you can clearly see obviously everything that you need to adjust, or when I say just top up, is there in front of you, like the dipstick we've got for the radiator, header tank, and so on. You can see it's quite a good sized battery as well, and it's well insulated because this is a hybrid model. One thing I will mention though is if you take a look at the front of the badge here, it's got a blue surround, and that signifies that it is the hybrid model. So thank you all once again for watching. Please remember to subscribe, and do keep on watching because we've got different things coming on in 2022. Please feel free to make any comments or any vehicle that you want us to take a review of. We're open to taking a look at those as well. But thank you all once again for watching, and yes, remember to subscribe. Thank you.